Today we're going to talk about sleep, and I want you to know that sleep is the one thing that really is the focus for longevity and keeping us healthy. It is extremely important that we sleep well. You may not know this, but the brain gets cleaned when we sleep. You know how your lymphatic system pushes toxins out, and how important a healthy lymphatic system is so that our environment doesn't kill us, right? Because there's so many toxins in the environment now. Well, the brain, more than any other organ, needs to detoxify. And we didn't used to know that there was a lymphatic system for the brain. It's called the glymphatic system. And the glymphatic system cleans the brain when you sleep. Most importantly, it cleans it during deep sleep. So even if you think you're sleeping well, you may not be getting deep sleep. There are certain things on the market. This is called an Oura ring, O-U-R-A. That measures deep sleep, and I think Fitbit and things like that do it as well. But it is important that you're getting deep sleep. If you're someone who's having trouble getting to sleep, or you're waking up during the night and having trouble getting back to sleep, or you're having to take sleeping medications to sleep, then you want to hear what we're going to talk about today. So let's start with somebody who's having trouble getting to sleep, or somebody who's waking up and having trouble going back to sleep. This is almost always related to a hormonal imbalance. There's lots of hormones that help us to sleep, and one common problem is a blood sugar problem that affects your hormones. So there are two hormones that regulate blood sugar. One is cortisol, one is insulin. Cortisol is the hormone that raises our blood sugar when we're sleeping. So when you're asleep, you're not eating. And when you're not eating, your blood sugar does eventually begin to fall. Even if you're a diabetic, this occurs. Then the adrenal glands will begin secreting cortisol, and it will raise your blood sugar so that you don't die in your sleep. So that's how it works. So many of us, especially in America, are eating the standard American diet. Not me, of course, but certainly many of our patients who come into the clinic are ill partially because of the standard American diet. Second, the amount of toxic exposure from the environment and certainly pesticides that are in our environment and on our food are known hormone disruptors. And when you disrupt the hormones, you disrupt the sleep. So these are different areas that can affect your sleep and wake cycles. So what happens is you can only make so much cortisol in a given day. Your adrenal glands are not some never-ending producing cortisol machine. So you can only make so much. So it's not uncommon for people to make so much cortisol that it can cause weight gain or massive fatigue. If you're really tired or overweight, then you might be secreting too much cortisol. So by the time nighttime rolls around and you need cortisol when you're sleeping to raise blood sugar, you might be out. It's not uncommon. So what happens is when you're out of cortisol, the adrenal glands will secrete adrenaline. Boing! You're awake. We call it wired but tired. So what happens is you have adrenaline running through your bloodstream, which makes you feel pretty awake. We're supposed to secrete adrenaline when we're being chased by a tiger, not to raise our blood sugar. But when someone has so much sugar from the standard American diet or is under tremendous amounts of stress, this imbalance of hormones is something that can make them wake up in the middle of the night and have trouble getting back to sleep. It's also something that can keep them from going to sleep. So sleep is so important, and deep sleep is so important so that brain can clean itself out. Now, if you're waking up in the middle of the night or having trouble sleeping, you want to pay close attention to this. Say, for instance, this is happening and you're also getting some memory loss. This is one of the early signs that you could be taking a step into Alzheimer's disease. So we want to make sure that you're getting healthy sleep and wake cycles. Here's how it's supposed to work. When you wake up in the morning, the reason you're supposed to wake up, not to an alarm per se, but when sunlight hits the eyelids, then your body has the signal to make cortisol. Your adrenal glands will secrete this hormone. It will wake you up, and this is the time of day your cortisol levels should be at their highest. So they start up here, and then as the day goes on, they begin to drop. And as the sun goes down, you stop making cortisol, or you make very small amounts, and then you start making the hormones to ready yourself for sleep. So ideally, science says we should be asleep between 2 and 3 hours after the sun goes down. Some of us want to stay up. So when you stay up, you start secreting hormones that you shouldn't be when you should be asleep. So let me give you a perfect example. Let's say you're looking at your iPad or your phone, your cell phone, or you're looking at your computer and it's 10 o'clock at night. Now, those adrenal glands are so necessary for good health, and they heal between 10 and midnight, if in fact you're asleep, but many of us are not. And many of us are sitting there looking at our devices, and there's still lots of people, believe it or not, that don't know that you're supposed to turn the blue light off on your device while you're sleeping. So when that blue light is coming through your device, you are actually secreting cortisol, a hormone you should not be secreting at that time. And it keeps you awake. So you can have trouble going to sleep, or the secretion of cortisol could wake you up in the middle of the night and you'd have trouble going back to sleep. So turn off your devices. If you're going to watch your device, then go ahead and turn off the blue light. Do everything you can to get to sleep between 10 and midnight. And if you have a good diet, low in sugar and processed foods and grains, then you're much more likely to have good blood sugar, hence good hormones that would help you have healthy sleep and wake cycles. So let me give you some helpful tips for sleeping. First of all, exercise really helps. It's not really recommended that you exercise close to the time you're going to go to bed, but exercise helps you sleep. You want your body to move. Next, like I said, turn off those blue lights. Turn them off on your computer. Turn it off on your phone. If you can't figure out how to turn off your blue light on your computer, they even have apps that you can purchase to turn off the blue light. Next, just kind of get yourself wound down in time for bed. So if you're going to go to bed at 10 p.m., then around 9 o'clock, maybe even 8 o'clock, maybe shut off your screens, put on some nice music. I always recommend taking a hot bath full of Epsom salts with some magnesium and maybe a little lavender. The body uses magnesium to help make the hormones for sleep. And I think those are some pretty good tips. If you do wake up during the middle of the night, it's really better not to get up. Really try and lay in bed and go back to sleep. I'm not saying count sheep. Many of our patients are successful at putting in some little earplugs and listening to a book on tape, which generally puts them back to sleep pretty quickly. So there's just some good tips.